Ever wondered what happened to the cast of Family Ties after their time in the spotlight? The beloved stars of this iconic sitcom faced unexpected twists in their lives. Some soared to new heights, while others encountered struggles that reshaped their paths. From career shifts to personal battles, their journeys have been filled with resilience, heartbreak, and triumph. In 2025, where are they now? Have they found peace, or are they still navigating life's challenges? Join us as we uncover the untold stories, the setbacks, and the inspiring comebacks of these familiar faces. You won't want to miss this. Meredith Baxter, who portrayed Elise Keaton at 35, brought warmth and realism to the liberal, feminist mother and architect on Family Ties. Her performance captured the complexities of a working woman navigating the cultural shifts of the 1980s. Off-screen, her life took a darker trajectory. Baxter endured 3 turbulent marriages, first to actor Robert Louis Bush, then to David Birney, whose emotional abuse she later publicly disclosed, and finally to Michael Blodgett, with whom she had 3 children, Kathleen, Molly, and Peter. None of her unions were long-lasting, and she often admitted to feeling emotionally adrift during her peak fame. She battled alcoholism through much of the 80s, and her strained relationships with her children only worsened during those years. Though she came out as a lesbian later in life and found companionship in Nancy Locke, her internal battles left deep scars. She survived breast cancer in the early 2000s, but never fully recovered from the emotional toll of public scrutiny. Now 77, Baxter lives in quiet seclusion in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Once worth millions, her estate has dwindled to an estimated $500,000, with sporadic income from book royalties and residuals. Her days are mostly filled with painting and therapy sessions, as she tries to reconcile the broken chapters of her past. Michael J. Fox, who took on the role of Alex P. Keaton at just 21, turned the money-loving, Reagan-worshipping teen into an icon of 80s sitcoms. Behind the bright lights, though, Fox's life became a harrowing journey. Diagnosed with Parkinson's at only 29, he kept the disease secret for years while continuing to act. His marriage to actress Tracy Pollen seemed picture-perfect, but the toll of his illness strained their bond deeply. They had 4 children, Sam, Aquina, Skylar, and Esme, but his long absences and increasing physical limitations often left Tracy shouldering the emotional weight. In private, Fox wrestled with depression, multiple surgeries, and the terror of cognitive decline. Though he became a leading voice in Parkinson's research, the advocacy work was exhausting and left him financially overextended. Now 63, Fox rarely makes public appearances, spending most of his time in a wheelchair and communicating through speech assistance devices. His once vibrant Hollywood home is now somber and quiet. Though his foundation raised millions, his personal estate is estimated around $2.5 million, much of it spent on care, treatments, and legal fees after being sued by former aides alleging mistreatment and unpaid wages. Tina Yothers, who played the assertive and tough Jennifer Keaton at 9, was once hailed as the next child star sensation. Her portrayal of the youngest Keaton daughter was equal parts sass and sincerity. But fame came too fast and too early. After Family Ties, Yothers struggled to be seen as anything but Jennifer. She attempted a music career with her band Jaded, which never took off, and endured years of ridicule and body shaming in the press. She married electrician Robert Kaiser in 2002, and the couple had 2 children, Lillian and Robert Jr., but the relationship was marred by financial hardship and reports of emotional abuse. After multiple failed attempts at reality TV comebacks, Yothers declared bankruptcy in 2011. She now lives in a rented home in Riverside, California, caring for her chronically ill daughter and delivering DoorDash orders for income. Once celebrated for her independence, she now battles agoraphobia and chronic migraines. Her family ties, ironically, are frayed, with estrangement from her brother and no contact with former castmates. At 51, Her estate is valued at just under $100,000, with no retirement savings and mounting medical debt. Mark Price, who portrayed the awkward yet endearing Skippy Handelman at age 14, turned the role into a cult favorite with his blend of slapstick and pathos. But the end of Family Ties marked the beginning of his descent into obscurity. Typecast and dismissed by casting agents, he pivoted to stand-up comedy, often sleeping in his car while touring grimy Midwestern clubs. Price married college sweetheart Angela Kaplan in 1994, but the marriage fell apart a decade later after years of financial instability and his struggle with gambling addiction. They had one daughter, Rachel, who now lives in foster care after a series of domestic disputes. Price tried producing low-budget reality shows but faced multiple lawsuits over unpaid wages and mismanaged funds. A fire in his rented studio apartment in 2018 destroyed years of memorabilia and left him hospitalized with burns and smoke inhalation. Now 57, Price lives alone in a trailer in Nevada, performing occasionally at county fairs. His estate, once buoyed by early royalties, is now worth less than $75,000. Bitterness often shadows his interviews, where he laments being the forgotten punchline of the golden era sitcoms. Courtney Cox, who portrayed Lauren Miller in Family Ties at age 23, brought intelligence and charm to the role of Alex P. Keaton's serious-minded girlfriend and a psychology major at Leland College. Though the role was relatively short-lived, it marked an early step in what seemed to be a destined path to stardom. While she later found fame as Monica Geller in Friends, Cox's life was far from idyllic. Her marriage to actor David Arquette lasted 14 years, ending in 2013, plagued by public rumors of infidelity and emotional disconnect. They had one daughter, Coco Riley, but strained co-parenting and Arquette's battles with addiction left lasting scars. Post-Friends, Cox faced a turbulent career with failed pilots and critical backlash over cosmetic procedures, which she later admitted had distorted her self-image. Her romantic relationships after divorce were brief and unfulfilling, often making headlines for the wrong reasons. She now lives alone in Los Angeles, grappling with aging in an industry that values youth. Though she maintains an occasional presence in film and television, her star has dimmed. Cox is currently 60 years old, her estate estimated at $45 million, bolstered more by Friends royalties than current work. Her days are quieter now, focused more on self-reflection than spotlight. John Hancock, who played Mr. Collins, the sage and soft-spoken teacher at Grant College, lent dignity and gravitas to a recurring role that deeply resonated with viewers. He portrayed the type of mentor everyone wishes they had, patient, intelligent, and empathetic. Yet behind his calm screen persona, Hancock's personal life was riddled with disappointment. A private man, he never married but had a long-term partner, Harold Dixon, a theater director, whose battle with HIV/AIDS ended just 2 years before Hancock's own death. The grief led Hancock into a deep depression, which he concealed even from close friends. He struggled financially, often taking minor roles in underfunded theater productions and commercials. His health deteriorated quickly, worsened by years of smoking and untreated hypertension. On October 12, 1992, at just 51, Hancock collapsed on stage during a rehearsal in Los Angeles and died from a massive heart attack. His estate, modest and largely consisting of personal belongings and a small savings account, was valued at under $80,000. Though largely forgotten by mainstream media, Hancock's former students and castmates remember him as gentle and profoundly intelligent, a man undone more by silence than scandal. Michael Gross, who played the loving, liberal father Stephen Keaton at age 35, infused the role with a deep warmth that made him a beloved patriarch to a generation of viewers. Off-camera, Gross was known for his professionalism and dedication to the craft, but his personal life bore little resemblance to the wholesome character he portrayed. He married casting director Elsa Bergeron in the mid-1980s, and the couple adopted 2 children, Jeremy and Francis. However, Gross's obsession with environmental activism and off-grid living created distance from his family. His children grew estranged in adulthood, citing emotional neglect. After Family Ties, Gross struggled to secure work outside of B-movies and genre films like the Tremors franchise. The lack of prestige roles affected his self-esteem deeply. He battled clinical depression and quietly separated from Bergeron in the early 2000s, though the divorce was never made public. Now 77, Gross lives in a remote part of New Mexico, maintaining a solitary life surrounded by nature but far from Hollywood's glow. He rarely sees his children and communicates primarily through sporadic email exchanges. His estate is currently estimated at $4 million, a sum earned through decades of frugal living and syndication checks rather than blockbuster paydays. Justine Baitman, who was just 16 when she took on the role of Mallory Keaton, embodied the bubbly, fashion-obsessed yet sweet-hearted daughter in Family Ties. Her portrayal, both charming and underrated, masked a youth spent under immense pressure. Thrust into fame too young, Bateman struggled with an eating disorder throughout the show's run. Despite her outward success, she never felt accepted in Hollywood for her looks or talent. Her post-Family Ties years were marked by a string of unsuccessful TV projects and a failed attempt to revive her career with reality programming. She married real estate developer Mark Fluellen in the late 1990s, and they had 2 children, Sasha and Dylan. But the marriage dissolved after a decade, strained by Bateman's obsessive focus on creative work and Fluellen's infidelity. She later pursued a degree at UCLA and transitioned into writing and directing, though many projects were met with indifference or critical disdain. Financial mismanagement and legal disputes over script rights left her in precarious economic standing. Now 59, Bateman lives in a small bungalow in Pasadena, focusing on indie filmmaking and speaking publicly about aging and Hollywood's superficiality. Her estate is estimated at $800,000, a modest sum for someone who once symbolized youthful charisma on primetime TV. Brian Bonsaw, who portrayed Andy, Keaton in Family Ties, was just 5 when he joined the cast as the adorable yet precociously opinionated youngest child. Though his character mirrored Alex's conservative values, Bonsaw's real life would prove far less scripted. After leaving acting in 1995, he struggled to find stability, diving into a punk music career that brought more chaos than comfort. Arrests related to substance abuse and domestic disputes in the 2000s plagued his reputation, and though he attempted rehab, relapses followed. He married Courtney Cox in 2017, but the union was reportedly strained by financial hardship and lingering addiction issues. The couple had 1 son, Jackson, though Bonsaw remains largely estranged from him. He reportedly cut ties with his parents in 2011, citing childhood exploitation. In 2020, he suffered a near-fatal overdose, prompting a short-lived sobriety. Now 43, Bonsaw lives reclusively in Colorado, struggling with mental health and surviving on modest royalties and disability support. His estimated estate is under $50,000, mostly tied up in old music equipment and memorabilia. Scott Valentine, who played Nick Moore, the dim-witted, art-loving boyfriend of Mallory Keaton, was 27 when he brought a sense of charm and comedic timing to the role that made him a fan favorite. After Family Ties, his career seemed poised for liftoff, but typecasting dogged his every audition. Though he appeared in minor roles throughout the 90s, his star never rose again. Valentine married former model Cynthia Graves in 1991. They had 3 children, Chase, Drew, and Lila, but the marriage disintegrated after years of infidelity rumors and Valentine's growing alcoholism. Divorced in 2009, he lost custody of the kids and spent years attempting to mend ties. He invested heavily in a restaurant chain that went bankrupt in 2014, leaving him financially devastated. He now lives alone in upstate New York, working sporadically in voice acting and giving occasional guest lectures on acting and failure. At 66, he suffers from chronic arthritis and early-onset Parkinson's. His estate is estimated at just $120,000. Tracy Pollen, who played Ellen Reed, the cultured and independent-minded love interest of Alex P. Keaton, was 25 when she joined the cast. Her chemistry with Michael J. Fox on-screen soon blossomed into real-life romance. They married in 1988 and had 4 children: Sam, Aquina, Skylar, and Esme. Though once hailed as a model Hollywood marriage, their life was quietly marked by hardship. Pollen put her career on hold to care for Fox after his Parkinson's diagnosis, and the emotional toll led to depression and several rumored separations. Their son Sam struggled with addiction, and daughter Skylar publicly criticized Pollen in a 2021 memoir for being absent while present. Tracy occasionally returned to acting but mostly lived in Fox's shadow. Now 64, she resides in Manhattan but often retreats to a lakeside home in Vermont, seeking privacy. Her net worth is estimated at $4 million, bolstered by book royalties and careful investments. Despite public smiles, her life has been one of emotional compromise and fading dreams. Alan Blumenfeld, who portrayed the kind-hearted and idiosyncratic Mr. Dewey at 33, brought warmth and eccentric charm to family ties as the quirky professor. While his theater credentials were lauded, mainstream fame never quite followed. After the show, he returned to the stage, but faced mounting frustrations with casting agents who saw him only as the oddball. He married stage director Linda Kassler in 1981, and they had one daughter, Margot, who tragically died in 2003 in a car accident. The loss drove a wedge in the marriage that eventually ended in 2007. Alan was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2011, and though he continued to act in smaller television roles, he often withdrew from public life. A fire destroyed his home in 2018, forcing him into temporary housing for nearly a year. Now 72, he lives modestly in a Pasadena condo surrounded by scripts he never performed. He teaches acting at a local college and volunteers with grief counseling groups. His estate is estimated at $350,000, mainly from voice work and theater pensions. Robert Costanzo, who portrayed Joe Moore in Family Ties, was 41 years old when he took on the role of the gruff, blue-collar neighbor whose blunt demeanor masked a lonely heart. Known for his prolific portrayals of working-class tough guys, Costanzo found typecasting both a blessing and a curse. Despite steady work in Hollywood, he never achieved leading man status. His marriage to costume designer Elaine Bruno lasted 12 years before crumbling under the strain of his drinking and long absences. They had 2 sons, Dominic and Vincent, both estranged for years after a bitter custody battle. In later years, Costanzo suffered from depression and heart problems, but continued voice work to stay financially afloat. His final film roles were minor, often uncredited. Now 82, he lives alone in a modest Los Angeles apartment, plagued by mobility issues and chronic pain. His net worth is estimated at $300,000, largely from residuals. Friends say he finds solace in old jazz records and a faded scrapbook of stills from his acting days, reminders of a career that never quite reached the heights he imagined. David Spielberg, who played Principal Willis DeWitt in Growing Pains, was 44 when he took on the stern yet caring role of the school administrator, often at odds with rebellious students. Though his screen time was limited, Spielberg's nuanced portrayal left a mark. After Growing Pains, his career drifted into obscurity, with roles growing fewer and less substantial. His marriage to stage actress Marlene Fisher was plagued by infidelity and jealousy. They divorced after 15 years. Their daughter Rachel struggled with substance abuse and was estranged from her father at the time of his death. Spielberg battled financial hardship in his final decade, living off dwindling SAG pension checks while fighting prostate cancer. In interviews, he spoke of a deep loneliness and regret over missed family milestones. He died on June 1, 2016, at the age of 77 from cancer complications. At the time of his passing, His estate was estimated at only $150,000, with most of it going to medical debt and back taxes. His ashes were scattered quietly by a distant cousin. Lisa Lucas, who portrayed Julie Whitney in Family Ties at just 22, brought a gentle sincerity to her recurring role as Alex Keaton's thoughtful love interest. Her youthful optimism on screen belied a deeply troubled personal life. After leaving acting in her late 20s due to anxiety and a growing sense of inadequacy in Hollywood, she married painter Elliot Harrow. Their union, marked by emotional distance and artistic jealousy, ended in a quiet divorce after 8 years. They had one daughter, Ivy, who now lives in France and rarely speaks of her mother. Lucas's post-acting years were marred by depression, a failed poetry collection, and a nervous breakdown that led to hospitalization in 2007. She now lives a reclusive life in rural Oregon, where she teaches writing at a community college under a pseudonym. At 64, she suffers from chronic fatigue and avoids public appearances. Her estate is modest, valued at approximately $90,000, mostly savings and royalties from her brief television work. She remains largely forgotten, save for a handful of devoted Family Ties fans. Who is your favorite character from Family Ties? How does it feel knowing that some of the actors are no longer with us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on future uploads. Thank you for your support.